Right, it's a very good evening to you, our viewers, viewers, and listeners. Join us live on ZiG. This is the Nyoni Network, and they're connecting with you right now. Very late in the night. It is 9 something. I don't know what time it is where you are over there. Just type in the comment box there. Let us know where you're logging in from. Just briefly catching up with you right now, late in the night, over what's happening around in the news um, and everywhere else, everything else. Quickly, here, type in the comment box there. Let us know where you're logging in from, our viewers, readers, and listeners. My name is Simba Chikanza, and I'm going to be beaming to you live right now. We've got a lot of things to talk about. We've got COS frauds, my COS, right? And these are frauds that are related to deceptions in the arena of immigration, and particularly the United Kingdom. I don't know about other countries, but it turns out that the United Kingdom is the greatest on this one here. And I had someone there was screaming at me, was saying, Simba, why do you use the term fraud? Why don't you use something a little bit more diplomatic? Someone said that to me there, and try and be as professional, as journalistic as you can. Don't use such threatening words. I don't know how threatening the term fraud is to you out there, and if something is seen, if I want to say, I appreciate and I take every form of feedback that comes to me for my work, and I also appreciate what people give in terms of feedback to the news network, because it is important, and that's what we do every day. We're here to take people's feedback. But I want to say quickly, touching on this term fraud, fraud, right? Why does Zimbabwe Kanza sometimes tend to use the term fraud? They are so confident. I'll tell you, it is not appropriate. It is really inappropriate to just throw such terms, such allegations, such very, very strong allegations. And you know, the problem with allegations of this nature is that they can if especially if they're not proven, they can affect a lot of things. They can affect a lot of people, and sometimes they're unnecessary. But why is it that Zimbabwe Kanza has tended many times to do that? Well, one thing about Zimbabwe Kanza is, when he works, hi Masi, how you doing, Sisong? All right, my lovely sister there, just beaming, connecting with us. Okay, so the only time when Zimbabwe Kanza, and when you do see Zimbabwe Kanza using such a term, you must ask him, what is your basis for pulling out such an extremely strong, a very strong term there? And I can tell you, by the way, and you should ask me, what I would do in those circumstances is I'll pull you and I'll give you what we call bajirungu, the dossier, right? Hear me. It's inappropriate still to use the term fraud, even if you've got a dossier. And I'll tell you, I will pull for you something that is beyond a dossier. Okay, so if we were to see, if I was to witness a person shooting someone, so someone being shot, okay, shot, and this person has clearly been shot by Nyson. I'm using the term Nyson because the word Nyson, Zimbabweans are familiar with Nyson. Kandaona munhu anonzi Nyson achipfuura munhu anonzi John apa pana First Street apa, and then inini ndongoti no. I don't really know what happened there. I shall wait for the police to conclude. And when I have actually seen this individual holding a gun, like literally, and I can firmly and positively identify kuti ndiye azviita, ndazozviona ndega pakadaro, ndomirira inini ZRP mutorashanga kana kuti ZRP central or ZRP CID whatever to declare to you what I have seen and proven. Come on. So it's the same thing with this term fraud. Mukaona ndichitaura like that, it has to be. I have to have justifiable reasons for using such a term. But quickly, I want to tell you that I do have Mugadi I can actually show you the bullet was shot by this gun that is over there 50 meters from here, and it went there and at such and such a time. And these are the results. So just to let you know, that is how I work. If you feel offended whenever I use such a term. Now, coming to this issue, we have Zimbabweans, we have not just Zimbabweans, we have people in the United Kingdom who go beyond the Zimbabwean community, who have been subjected to deceptions in the arena of COS or COS fraud. Okay, now these are the type of deceptions where a person is told to pay money, and then when they pay money, then they will be given immigration papers that are called certificate of sponsorship. So these are like a layer of immigration certification that is sufficient for the Home Office to issue an immigration permit. So a person can then fly over to the United Kingdom. We have numerous Africans, numerous. Are you one of those? Lift your hands. If you are a victim, you're fraud, yes, you is fraud. I want to give time, as I'm going to be talking here about what's happening around the news. If you are here and you've been defrauded, hear me, for free, right? This is usually a category that we put because of the enormity and how difficult this area is. So people, what they do is they call in, and I'm gonna give free time. So anytime you just call in for Ingo phone, you don't have to pay a penny. Okay, so in the next few minutes, if I talk for the next 5 minutes, and there is something that you can actually call me on +44 742 686 3301. Okay, I said +44 742 686 3301 on WhatsApp. Kwete pa direct number. Usafone pa direct. Ngatifona pa WhatsApp. And I hope you heard me right there. Phone on the WhatsApp number. If you've got a matter of immigration fraud, particularly here, a certificate of sponsorship, and you want to scream out and say, Simba Chikanza, I was duped so much, such and such a money. Ingofona is so I'm going to say +44 742 686 3301. Zima is the home of investigative journalism, particularly in these areas, because Zimai does not fear anyone. Zimai has no. Someone said to me the other time, there's some individuals out there, some people who are using your name, Simba Chikanza. Some people are Mukawana. Anyone who is using my name out there and claiming that they represent me or they know me, and they threaten you and tell you can't expose me because I'm friends with Simba Chikanza. Expose them immediately, right? Call me to know I expose Dina, my friends. I don't have any friends. I don't have relatives who steal money from people and then they threaten. I don't have anyone who I have authorized to use either my name or even my nickname. Okay, or even my picture. So if anyone out there, I'm saying here, Georgina Robertson, if you are out there and you've got an immigration issue, you've got a COS mandate that you want to whistleblow, call +44 742 686 3301. In the next 5 minutes as I'm speaking, you can interrupt me. I'll allow you to speak. I'll allow you to expose whoever. The people who are stealing money from people, they're not stealing small money. They're stealing huge extortionate amounts. Some people are losing 15,000 per person. Someone is just calling right now from South Africa. I'm hoping this is a COS matter. Good evening to you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. I hope you're calling on the program or it is something else.
I'm calling on program because I'm one of the victims.
All right. Wow. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, thank you. Just hold on. Just hold on, and then I'll allow you to just briefly. I'll give you 1 minute. So prepare in 1 minute because we want to just give you time. Can I mean any piece of evidence? I gotta send my pictures and the like. If I mango fumura over my comments as well, throw it onto the comments as well.
Okay, I'll forward you the chat only on this number.
But summarize, it is to summarize because at enough time. I want to give you 1 minute to summarize. Also post it my comments so. Post it my comments so. Okay. Right. And then it over time and then we speak over whatever you have thrown there. Right. I've got Kasia Kempter. Kasia and oh my beautiful, my lovely sister Murise say, oh, so happy to see you. I've got my lovely sister there from Europe. Right. Okay. Georgina Robertson is based in Ireland. Well, good evening, Georgina. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you. Right. So, are we going to go ahead? So, I wanted to just quickly say, I'll give time here to our caller who's based in South Africa briefly to narrate Nyaya, but I want him to type in my comments first. Nyora ikanyika summary mkoma even mkanyora ne shona or you write in Isindebele, right? Put it in the comment section there, and then we can talk over it. Is that possible?
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible.
Type it right now on Vandaisa papa screen apatovata pisa. One thing I wanted to say is when regarding to COS, the COS, number one, never give your money. I have to repeat, never give your money to anyone for any COS unless, hear me, unless number one, you have verified this individual, right? You have verified who they are. Number two, this individual, you have actually had an independent verifiers, people who verify. On this news network, we actually offer a service. Instead of paying thousands to a COS agent, if you pay the news network just £150, to know the groundwork, we'll do the groundwork for you. We will verify, we will look, because we know how to check in the databases for individuals. We also know how to investigate who is who and what they're up to, which you, because you are desperate for a job, you might not be aware. So instead of paying 5,000 or paying 10,000, some people are paying 15,000 to a COS agent. Pay just £150 for someone to spend a day investigating for you, investigating a COS agent for you. And then that individual, then you see what ZIMI will do, then we'll give you a report. This will be a verification report to tell you, look, this place is safe. And we'll not only just do that, we'll also advise you on the best way to get your COS without having to worry. So it's an important thing to do that. And if you fail to get ZIMI, get a trusted someone who works. I'm giving you an example in the legal fraternity. Get lawyers who are professionals, for instance, who can verify, right? But we are here. We are always here. If you call us and tell us that, look, you want Mkoma type. Are you the one that I type up?
Yes.
The Taffy Phillips.
Yes.
Okay. Beautiful.
Yes.
Okay, okay, yeah. So we have ZIMI has a special service where we verify these agents for you, right? So let's go ahead here. Do you want to give us your bit here? Do you also maybe want to send me a picture, Kanairi, or something, or whatever? Give us your 1 minute. Shoot.
Okay. Mr. Kanga, thank you for the opportunity. I paid the COS in 2023 June. The COS was supposed to be out in 5 days, But 5 days they did lapse, and there's nothing that came out until now. Initially, it was said that it's gonna come out after March, and I said now, but the process is closed now. The person said that since we have applied already, nothing gonna change. But up now, when I call the person, he doesn't answer my calls. He doesn't reply my messages. So initially, I paid £3,000 with the option of paying the balance. It was £1,000 later. Sorry, £2,000 later. And lucky enough, I only paid 3,000. So the balance was supposed to be paid when I came there. But up now, I didn't get anything. I lost my money, £2,000. When I call the person, he doesn't answer. He doesn't do anything. Yeah, that's all I can say in summary. I'll send you more evidence in your WhatsApp.
Wow. Oh, thank you. Anonzi Anui. What's the name?
The name is I just know him by name Tim, Tim.
Tim Ani. Tim who?
Yes, it's Tim of Tonderai Mutamir.
Okay. Munema pictures akere. Makambo mona.
Yes, we do have pictures for you.
Okay, but makambo mona ere.
Atina.
Yeah, musape vanhu mari kana munhu musina kumuona pavidhio, musina kuverifera nevamwe vanhu. You know? Because vanhu ava ndozva vakuita, vari kushandisa maloopholes iwawa. Chimwe chinhu chandada kukudzai futi. One important thing ndoda kukudzai teererai. Whenever you're dealing with COSs, never give anyone who tells you that they know someone else who can provide the COS, or that they know a certain company that provides the COS, or that they are an agent for another company that they provide for. That's it. Whenever you see a chain, then you must know that the money is gone. Never allow anyone, listen to me. But the most important thing which I said at the beginning is never give anyone who has not been independently verified by other people. Does that make sense?
Yes, you're correct.
Because you see, mukangotadza izvozvo handitika. Once you fail to do that, it means that at any time, this individual, even if they were genuine, they could easily run away. You see? Get some verification, you see, and we offer that service. ZimI offers that service, just £150 instead of paying thousands. How much did you pay?
We paid 3,000, but so like what you just said, we were referred by a friend, Lisa Dion Mutendi. She's the one who connected us with Tim. So, like mungoziya uchidila ne friend ka, it was more like legit. Saka anombobvira tafungidzira kuti tichatonyudzwa zvitodaro, because he akati zvonanzi if this person akafaila to provide us with a COS or return the money, she will return the money iye wachonalisa kwatiri. So takangoona kunge zvemashuwa zvitodaro.
Ndewe kupi Lisa? Anonzi Lisa ni?
Lisa Dion Mutendi.
Munomuziva ere munhu wacho? Lisa wacho?
Yeah, like angari girlfriend ye brother yangu. So anombofungidza kuti zvingatozoite zvitodaro.
Ndozvavari kutoita izvozvo. Zvokuti vanoshandisa vanhu vari familiar, vanhu vari pedhuze.
Yeah. Zvakaoma.
And makanga matumira mari yenyu ne Western Union?
No, the thing is, takasangana pane anonzi Taurai Shava, hama ya Timothy, ndiye vakasangana naye kuZimbabwe, yakapiwa mari yeye.
Right. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So what can we do? Munhu arikuda kuyanikwa kwayo. Titumirei then ituona kuti motumira ma numbers ake.
Because the painful thing is Kana tikatry kumufonera, he doesn't pick up his calls, he doesn't reply our SMSs. Both Lisa and Timothy, they send a message, they don't reply at all.
Mm, mm. Okay. Yeah. No, thank you very much, Andrade. We will need to taisa ngirikini yenyu apa akapa titumire zita, and then mokotitumira evidence, and then motumira phone number. Ndovafonera timbotoona kuti tinogona kuvafumura, ndogona kuvafumura even kana pari pano pajekerere panapo. Nditumire mafone number avo izvozvi. So ndakumboenda to another, want to quickly go to another matter here. Pane nyaya yatatumirwa panapa. Thank you, welcome. Yatakandirwa panapa zvanzi kune kuri kutoreswa zvitupa zvekuMozambique kumasvingo kuti vanhu vacho vazonovhota kumoza. Imbotsvakai nyaya iyi masvingo pane mamwa munowana nyaya yese. Handina hangu umbo hwakakwana but zviri kuitika. Right, vari kumasvingo muriko here ukoko? Kuri kunzi iko kune kuri kutorereswa zvitupa zvevanhu zvekuMozambique kumasvingo kuti vanovhota. There's a place in Masvingo where people are being made to take passports or identity cards of a country called Mozambique so that they can go and vote over there. Have you witnessed this? Mazhuonawo here izvozvi. Tell us what's going on there. I want to go quickly here to a matter relating to the future of the country. Right, nditumire ma numbers aya ndichitaura nenyaya yezvenyika iyi. Matumira here. Okay, I'm gonna mute you briefly. Okay, thank you. Right, so here we go, folks. On the screen here, we see a graphic. It is a graphic. I was hoping that this graphic would fill the space. Unfortunately, what I notice is that it's covering only a part of the screen. I don't know if it is sufficient. Is it clear? Is this graphic clear? Graphic really clear. Screen. Really clear. Is that graphic clear? Right, is that graphic clear? Okay, so this graphic, it shows us, folks, what is it suggests what is happening right now with the golden Zimbabwe. You know, Zimbabwe has just introduced the new so-called golden currency, the ZiG. And what the government says is that the same value as the price of gold. So what we see right now is this graphic and reflective of what the central bank governor has said when he has indicated that the ZiG currency is crashing, it is dying. Zviri kungopera zvega. Hanzi ZiG hanzi mushaya vanhu. ZiG richangopera rega. Hanzi ZiG achangopera ega. Mamboinzwa here statement iyoyo. Zvakanzi chizviena biti ndinyorerewo pane shona panapa. Hanzi anga achangopera ega. Ndizvo. Mashaya mumbobva ati hanzi ZiG, Mr. Strong ZiG anga achangopera ega. Right, folks. I sound as if yes, hanzi anga achangopera ega. Takapiwa advice ne World Bank. Asi hatina kupiwa advice ne-World Bank yacho. Right, please help me. Am I saying it correctly? Right, the RBZ governor has said that the ZiG currency is going nowhere. This is what he has indicated. And then he has also indicated that the advice around the currency was given by the World Bank, but it was not given by the World Bank. I'm using his own words, so this is what he says. Anoenda kumberi obva adzoka futi anonyora zvinhu obva azvidhilita futi zvinhu zvaataura izvozvo. But all in all, he's indicating that the currency is going nowhere. Now the graphic here, what it shows us, folks, right? Right. I don't know if people are following here. Christopher Muchanga called Mr. Emerson Mnangagwa Mr. Strong ZiG, right? The currency that has got structures. Mr. Strong ZiG, the currency that has got structures. Now, so now, I'm just thinking aloud here. I'm looking at Mnangagwa, right, as something that a building, for instance, that doesn't have structures, and then he's also calling himself Mr. Strong ZiG. Now, there's this common phrase that Tendai Biti used to describe Nelson Chamisa, saying anga achangopera ega, so he was just going to die. So in this particular case, Mashayano comes says, anga achangopera ega, the Mr. Strong ZiG, anga achangopera ega, and when that happens, you must blame the World Bank, not me. Blame them, but don't blame them. Right? Someone says, Mafani is Zimbabwe. But are you seeing how connected this is to the actual topic around who is supposed to be in State House? The person who is supposed to be in State House. Can you all see how the story around the ZiG defines the exit of Emerson Mnangagwa? So the exit of the ZiG is the exit of Mr. Emerson Mnangagwa. Right? Okay. I hope people are getting this, right? If this is making sense. Now, if Mnangagwa's presidency is going to be defined around the ZiG currency, then Mnangagwa is actually going. Atopera ega, anga achangopera ega, endazopiwa akutopera ega. And it kind of brings me back to the whole concept around what some people have suggested when they've said Nelson Chamisa is not the opposition, he is not vibrant. The only person who is vibrant is Vadzai Mahere, this and that and that and that and that and that. Chamisa doesn't need to say anything, does he? He doesn't need to tweet anything. He doesn't need to be in parliament. Vakomana arungopera ega. Mr. Strong ZiG arungopera ega. Am I wrong? Hi, Wubert.
Hello, Simba.
Which side of the world are you? Are you in Kwekwe or you are in Dubai?
I am where the gold is, Dubai.
I don't know. Are the graphics clear, Wilbert?
You mean of the what you're displaying?
Yeah, I don't know. I can see properly, where I am here.
No, that's fine. It looks really beautiful. Yeah.
Is it? But is it making sense or Trungo Sona Mabodoro?
Well, you're absolutely right. We are.
Every day.
We are exporting all our gold, and it's all going to Dubai, and Dubai is looking great. Meanwhile, everything in Zimbabwe is collapsing. That's a tragedy, and I think that is really sad. But there it is.
We are dismantling Zimbabwe's bricks, Zimbabwe's buildings, so that we fly out the bricks, the gold bricks, to Dubai.
We are. I agree with what you said as well, that the failure of the ZiG could spell Mnangagwa's failure, but we've got to remember that this is a regime that is politically unaccountable. And therefore, then they will impose themselves, even if the people are desperate to get them out. That is the tragedy of Zimbabwe. You know, the currency may fail and Mnangagwa will still be there because it's not democratically accountable to the people.
Oh, right. But then, Wilbert, at the rate of what you're seeing in the graphic there, at the rate at that rate, could not the change of Zimbabwe be just as ridiculous? What I'm saying is the manner in which Mnangagwa is dismantling the country like this, and is it not indicative of how ridiculous his exit could be? Just as what you're seeing right now. When you look at that graphic, I mean, I know some our team, some of our team, right, constructed these graphics, yeah. But
Actually,
when
the only graphics I can see is the picture of the plane leaving Zimbabwe going to Dubai. There's nothing else there.
Yeah, but can you see the gold? So the infrastructure that is being destroyed, so the flooring is literally being floored there, right? The way they are actually, and this is practically happening in Kwekwe. I mean, we've seen these buildings, right? Schools, hospitals, like literally just falling under, like this. Yeah. And you know that Kwekwe, by the way, is now the home of both. It is the home of Mnangagwa. It's the home of Muda. It's the home of Kamlesh Patni, that man who is in the gold mafia. So,
right.
yeah. If you didn't know, ndokwa akugara kwewe Kamlesh Patni. I don't know what arikuita ikoko, but ndokwa akutogara izvozvi physically. So my point is, Wilbert, could with what we're seeing on the graphic there is perhaps not even the tip of the iceberg of what is happening to the infrastructure of the country.
Oh yeah, that point Simba is understood, but even you and me can admit that Zimbabwe's economic decline started way back in 1980 and has been going nosediving for the last 44 years. Yes, I think I'll also agree with you to ever since Mnangagwa took over, the decline, if anything at all, has accelerated. That I'll agree. But what my comment on that would be is because we are looking at a situation here where the truth is ZANU-PF, has been in power and has got absolute power. And they've managed to get away with all this economic decline because it has got dictatorial powers. It can rig elections. People are helpless. All we've been doing the last 44 years is twiddle our thumbs and wring our fingers in desperation. We desperately need change, but we haven't got the change. And I think, yes, although things have got even worse, and I can also comment and say, yes, like all dictatorship, they are bound to collapse. So it's a matter of this dictatorship will collapse. God knows when and how, but it will collapse. But the economic decline has been going on for the last 44 years. And yes, it has got worse, but it has been going on. So at the present moment, to be quite honest, unless people make a really conscientious decision and say, we really have got to do something to end this, Simba, I can see this situation continuing on to 2028, Mnangagwa rigging those elections, staying in power for another 5 years, somebody else taking over, and this carry on could continue, Simba.
Yeah, but just using your imagination, Wilbert, you and I, you know, Wilbert, we've been analyzing news here since 2015 or so, and you agree with me. We've seen some really crazy changes, some really strange changes in the stratosphere of the country. Throughout this time, we have participated in, even with numerous of these people, including Matemadanda live on Zimai over the time, right? Yeah. So my point, and some of these people you'd never have thought. I mean, would you have thought that Matemadanda would become an ambassador for people? Yeah? Could become who he is, controversial and all sorts. Would you ever thought that Mnangagwa, who back in those days was being postulated as a businessman, someone who can run the country, would suddenly, strangely, just all of a sudden, overnight, become the worst human being on the continent? So my point is, just judging by this graphic that we're seeing, could we not see, Wilbert, you and I, the same way we were sat here in 2017, you, myself, Nkululeko Sibanda, Matemadanda, Themba Mliswa, and several people, right? And we were, I think, was it Mahia as well? Yeah, and yeah, could we not see this type of radical, sudden shift that could shell shock every one of us? And the country just change because maybe the wording of Tendai Biti there, anga achango pera ego. Maybe this is what it means, Wilbert. That idi achango shipedza ega. Nyika yabva yangonaka ega. Just
Well, my comment on that was, Simba, is that I think that has been one of our biggest weaknesses. We always believe that we have hit rock bottom. We can't sink any further now. Things are bound to change. And yet, time and time again, we have found, no, this hell is even deeper than we thought. And we've been sinking deeper and deeper.
But Wilbert, in 2017, when you and I were here and we were busy arguing, right?
Yeah.
We had more than one problem, right? In a population of over 32 million, okay, the two countries of Zimbabwe and Zambia, things were totally gloomy. After just 3 years, Wilbert, one or two things that happened, strange changes did happen. Lungu was toppled, Wilbert, yeah, and a lot of that effort was even done here on Zimai, was removed from power. So my point is, it was a crazy change. That is it possible for Mnangagwa's home country that he controls, that he runs, that he strangulates the people of Zambia, even though he's as far as Harare, and Edgar Lungu, who was perhaps worse in terms of barbarism, could be removed, removed just like that. So my point is, Wilbert, could this not be? I'm trying to use my imagination and also combine my imagination with a bit of practical that I can relate to the most recent events here, what you and I have seen here over the last 6-7 years.
Yeah, but Simba, you should not forget that Zambia, even with the present political system that is there now, it has an incredibly changed political system that has got the potential to be changed. That is the main thing. That is the biggest thing about Zambia. The removal of Kenneth Kaunda opened the door. It changed the political system. It can now be changed. I think I heard you are the one who was talking the other day of how many presidents have been since Kenneth Kaunda. And yet in Zimbabwe, we are still stuck with just 2. That is what is the problem with Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe's political system is fixed. And unless we change it so that it is flexible enough to change whoever is governing, we are stuck. I think we can wish all we want for change. But as long as you've got a political system that is so deeply entrenched that can rig elections and get away with it, you are not going to have any change. That is the fundamental difference. Lunga, as much as he would have wanted to stay in power, he didn't have the dictatorial powers that MNANGAGWA has. You are the one who was commenting there about Zambia's electoral, the equivalent of ZiG, that they were independent. They wanted to see free, fair, and credible elections.
Wilbert, I will caution you there. I was there. Yeah, when I spent the whole night looking for Lungu's number on the 12th of August, only to find it just before midnight and phoning this man. Wilbert, Zambia was a pit. I will caution you to look back. Their electoral commission was just as corrupt. But what happened there was, to be honest, from my recollection, it was a combination of efforts where people imagined, they just believed that something crazy could happen. And I'm saying it because I actually participated in it, Wilbert, myself, personally, in that action of calling a whole president and exposing him live while he still commands the army and the police. And Wilbert, when I did it, Zambia was just, even, right now, if you go to Zambia, you can still smell the damage that Lungu did to that country. It's all over the institutions. Even to this day, they're still struggling to remove the damage. I actually think, Wilbert, maybe you and I should go there together and you can see it for yourself. Even now, right? You will see how Lungu ransacked that country. Perhaps worse than MNANGAGWA. Hear me. And he left in such a poor state, extremely poor state, Wilbert, that, to be frank, I don't know. Maybe I can't really compare between Zimbabwe, but I can definitely tell you that what motivated me to call Lungu was the understanding of how so powerful he was, and expose him. And that crazy change, Wilbert, that crazy change that has happened, that is what I'm trying to relate here, Wilbert, that we are in a pit. But Wilbert, maybe zvaitwa na piti izvozviye zvekuti apera ega uyu MNANGAGWA akuzvipedza uyu ega.
Well, on that point, I think we after the election of Hichilema in Zambia, we discussed that point. I still believe that the dictatorial powers that Lunga had compared to what MNANGAGWA had are two different. You're talking of two different worlds. What you've got to remember here is that MNANGAGWA, as ZANU-PF, had the wealth to bribe literally all the key players in the electoral process. I don't think Lunga had that. From the headmen to the chiefs, to the judiciary, police, army, you name it. ZANU-PF, that's the extent of their power. Look how much MNANGAGWA was spending even a few weeks before the election on judges. $400,000 housing loan. We discussed it on ZiG. That is a bribe. No one can deny that. And the judges accepted it, and they knew what it was. And do you seriously think with those judges were going to do anything that would compromise ZANU-PF? The answer is forget it. They're not going to do it. That's how powerful MNANGAGWA and ZANU is. I don't know, I'm not an expert in Zambia, but from what I could see from outside, I did not see Lunga having that extent of power, dictatorial powers, and flexing it to the same extent that ZANU-PF was flexing it. That is what I'm saying. Yes, this ZiG is doomed to collapse. But let's not forget that we had a similar situation in 2008 when the Zimbabwe dollar at that time, inflation was so rampant, it rose to 500 billion% to the point where prices were changing by the minute. I was in Zimbabwe in 2008. There were nothing in the shops, Zimbabwe. Because you honestly could not do any meaningful business when your currency is losing value that fast. You could take a combi from Mavuku into town, do whatever you wanted to do in town. When you try to take the same combi to go back to Mavuku, you may find the prices doubled. That is how fast the prices were changing, Simba. It was impossible to do business that time. It was absolutely impossible. You go to the bank, they gave you a limit of how much you could withdraw. You may find that you withdraw the money there, it's not even enough to pay for the combi. Do you seriously think tomorrow you'll be coming back into town? The answer is no. That is how serious the economy fell. Yes, then we had the election, and under pressure from SADC, ZANU-PF was forced into the GNU. But at the present moment, the ZiG is not going to sink to the same level. And MNANGAGWA may well survive. And without meaningful democratic change, I can tell you now, Zimbabwe will be heading for 2028, and we'll have a repeat of what we have just seen last year.
I think my projections are that Zimbabwe's democratic change that you're talking about is simply defined and will simply be the ZiG-cratic change. What's happening right now with the ZiG currency, this will be the change that is going to usher in. It seems to be from events that are happening.
So you think inflation is going to, the hyperinflation is going to continue to the level of 2008?
No. I think what's going to happen here is worse than inflation.
Well, this
is what's happening right now. What's happening right now, Wilbert, is how can I call it? This is I'm looking for the word, not incursion. This is total collapse. This is actual fact, Wilbert. And I can tell you right now, if the aspects of money laundering that MNANGAGWA has been tied to, if some law enforcement somewhere is triggered, MNANGAGWA, with this could really and seriously cripple him, especially in the light of what we have seen right now, how the most powerful man in the world, Putin, is being crippled not just by sanctions, even by legal action, by court action. That some people were saying, court action doesn't work. Yeah, but being slapped with ICC ICC verdict. So what I'm saying is, if something like that can happen to Putin, the most powerful person in the world, who is Mnangagwa? Chi Mnangagwa pa nyama ye huku. Kana Putin chaiye munetsa. That's where I'm coming from.
Oh no, simple. Like I said, I'm not saying the Mnangagwa is going to stay forever. I would never say that, because I know this is a dictatorship that has lasted 44 years. But would I say that the collapse of the ZiG is the final straw? I don't know. If it is the final straw, that's well and good. I'll be the first one to praise it. But what I was trying to emphasize there is that this is the drip that we have seen for the last 44 years. And if you wanted to see a significant drop in public confidence in the government, it was in 2008. When we had the hyperinflation, there were no goods in the shops, and yet the regime somehow managed to survive. At the present moment, one of the things that has saved Mnangagwa ever since he came into power is that he has been able to sacrifice many people, particularly the teachers and the nurses, healthcare workers, and education. Those have been thrown out of the overboard. The teachers are being paid ridiculous. Recently, I don't know whether you were following it. They were being paid in US dollars. And since the last budget by the Minister of Finance, I think what he was saying there is whatever they were being paid in US dollars is going to be converted to local currency. So we may be looking at on the 31st of April or 30th of April, the civil servants may find there's no US dollar being paid to them. All they are being paid is in ZiG, which everybody can see is totally valueless. You know, even losing a ZiG value by 50% of its value, it's incredibly difficult for the people. But we know in the past it has risen way above three figure inflation rates, and even 500 billion%. But still, we have got a political system that has captured all the democratic alternatives for people to say, no, this is totally unacceptable. That is what has kept ZANU-PF in power. If Zimbabwe was a democratic country, I can tell you, Kuti, with the chaos that is happening right now. Just now, I was listening to a video clip where Vice President Chiwenga was saying those who are in the money exchange, the risk being crippled. For what? Having the ZiG and all the other foreign currencies is not illegal in Zimbabwe. As long as the country is saying it's a multi-currency system, if you were in Zimbabwe right now, you can have as much US dollars, as many ZiGs as you want, as many rands as you want in your house or wherever. It's not illegal. And if I was to come pay you a visit and say, Simba, I want to go to South Africa, can I get some rands from you? It's perfectly legal for you to say, Wilbert, I'll trade you my rands for the ZiG, or my US for the rands. And the exchange rate is between the two of us. If I'm prepared to pay twice the bank rate, that's my decision. If I am saying no, I can't pay twice the official bank rate, that's fine. You can say no, it's okay, Wilbert. I know I can sell my rands to somebody else and get 10 times that. That is your decision. But to start saying you are a criminal because you are trading in currencies, it's stupid. It's a multi-party, it's a multi-currency system. This is just a regime abusing its powers. And we know why. The ruling elite are the only ones who go to the bank and get foreign currency at the official exchange rate. And they're the ones who give it to the street runners to sell on the street at the black market rate, and they pocket the difference. They just don't want competition, that's all. They don't want Simba chickens trading in as making a fat profit too. They are the ones who must monopolize that trade. That's all. All that threat, all those police abusing people, beating up people, it's perfectly, they were doing nothing wrong. They did not commit any criminal act. Whether I exchange in my house or I do it in the street, wherever I am, if it is a country that has got a multi-currency system, you can trade in goods, services, as well as currency. That is the truth. But we have got a regime here that is setting the rules to suit themselves. That's all.
You know, Wilbert, someone says here, Raji Constadi says, Zim analyst, government and other academics all out order. Zim crisis was caused by land invasions. The production of the country was totally collapsed for that country to come back on its farming sector. Be rolled, heavenly and wild animals should be protected in the country. The GDP of the country is motor farming and mining simple. Okay, I think you've thrown quite a lot of things in there in one comment, but I think we get it. I think I also get it. Right, right. And then someone says, Botichak says, go back to the beginning. I think this one is referring to you, Wilbert. Go back to the beginning, Wilbert, in 1980, when the declaration was signed, that is where the mess is. If you tell me what was signed, you'll find where our gold is.
I think if we want to be honest here is, yes, the independence was not perfect, but that was no excuse for going down the route we have gone. If we had a democratic party in the form of ZANU-PF that accepted that the country should be democratic, just like what Mandela did in South Africa, there is no reason why we would have ended up being stuck with a de facto one-party state for 44 years. We can pick, cherry pick on some of the defaults in 1980, 1985, and so forth. Yes, they are there. Nobody can deny that. But does that explain why we became a failed state? The answer is no. The main reason why we are a failed state is our failure to hold free, fair, and credible elections so that those in power are held to account. I mean, you, Simba, were involved in this Al Jazeera documentary. When you are looking at a key resource like gold, and you hear that 80% of that gold is being smuggled, and with those gold mafias, once they are involved, they smuggle 80%. No ordinary people, the nation as a whole, will not benefit from it. It's only they themselves who benefit from it. Because they don't pay tax. Those guys, when they've smuggled 50 kgs of gold. They're not going to declare how much they earned so that they will pay income tax on it. No. They don't declare it. They're not taxed it, and they're not paying duty to take it out. And when they come back, they declare that they've brought in $5 million US. You watch the documentaries, and yet in reality, you find that he didn't even bring a quarter of that. So in the end, we found ourselves in a situation where on paper, the nation had enough foreign currency, but in reality, there was no foreign currency. That is where the corruption is. And to crown it all that wealth that is being looted is actually being abused because it's now being used to buy off the judiciary so that they do ZANU-PF dirty work, to buy cars for the chiefs so that they become ZANU-PF political commissar in all but name, to maintain the ZANU-PF dictatorship. You, if you had decided you were going to contest the elections, you would have struggled, as many of the candidates would tell you, to raise even $1,000 US. But ZANU-PF was loaded. $1,000 was nothing. And indeed, in fact, that's one of the reasons why they raised the nomination fees. They knew that most ordinary people would not be able to afford $20,000 US. Where do I get $20,000 US for? And so you're left out. For parliamentary seat, you've got to raise a deposit of 1,000. ZANU-PF paid the 1,000 for all its candidates. But you as an individual, you've got to raise that money from your begging your friends. You know, and this is before you've started paying for the campaign. ZANU-PF has looted so much wealth and has abused it to keep itself in power. And some of the key players in that looting, the Chinese, for instance, have an invested interest in keeping ZANU-PF in power. If MNANGAGWA turned around and say, I'm struggling to raise the money for the campaign, many of those gold mafia would have bankrolled it because they knew Kuti, once he's elected back into power, within 6 months, they will recover whatever they spent.
And Hubert, while you're on that, what about this suggestion by Ignatius Dube that Anzi BT must come back as finance minister and Mtuli has failed? And Simba, I think BT needs to come back as finance minister because Mtuli has failed. What do you think?
I think this is one of the problems that we have with Zimbabweans is the failure to think outside the box. BT was Minister of Finance during the GNU. Yes, the economy picked up, but was that the primary purpose of the GNU? The answer is no. BT knew the primary purpose of the GNU was to implement the reforms to stop ZANU-PF rigging elections. And he failed to implement even one token reform. And therefore, then to bring him back, if you seriously think you could bring him back in total isolation, just look at the finance alone. That doesn't work. We are not going to fix the economy without fixing our politics. The number one top priority is to fix the politics. Even if he was to join ZANU-PF and become Minister of Finance, this is exactly what Gono was trying to say in his interview with Trevor Ngube. It's not the bank governor, it's the system. You can have 1,000 bank governors, but if they're told the looting is untouchable, the corruption the political oppression, etc. All these things are untouchable. They are ring fenced. You don't touch that. You don't touch that. At the end of the day, they are only clerks pretending that they have got power when they don't have any power. Do you remember Bernard Chizero, Simba?
Yes, I remember the respected Bernard.
One of the things that Bernard Chizero said, I can't remember, it was soon after he became Minister of Finance. One of the things that he said was, we are spending too much on security. The army, the police, the CIO, and the prison services. But when he tried to get those budgets reduced, Mugabe told him that no, those are untouchables. And so he could not reduce them. And it is said when he was presenting the budget, he mockingly was saying, oh, this so much millions of dollars allocated to police for the boys, for the army for the boys. And that remark was meant to underline, this is for the boys. It has no economic sense at all.
Well, he actually said the boys.
Yeah, he was saying it when he presented this budget. This is for the boys. This is for the boys. Because he knew, how can you justify him by having a situation where before independence, Ian Smith had 2 brigades fighting a civil war. Yeah. After independence, Mugabe had 5 brigades. The war is over. Why do you need 5?
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Ian Smith, you speak to anyone who was in the Rhodesia Front Army, they will tell you Ian Smith had 2 brigades. But when the country became independent, Mugabe himself increased the number of brigades to 5. We were no longer in a war situation. That was the point when you should be reducing the size of the army. If you are working in a factory and you find yourself in a situation where you have more security guards than people working in that factory is doomed. Because security guards do not produce anything, Simba. They do not contribute anything. They are just part of the overheads. Why would you increase your overheads when you should be increasing your production? What earns you the money is what you produce, not overheads. But that is exactly what Mugabe was doing. The security budget kept ballooning, and the civil service also started ballooning as well. And that is why during the ISAP, starting in 1990, the whole point about the World Bank, the IMF, the number 1 priority is reduce the bloated civil service and security and so forth. You are spending far too much on these things. Yes, some of them were welfare. They're like free hospital and education for everybody and so forth. Yes, those, although you could not afford it, at least those were contributing to the general well-being of the nation. Security was not. And yet that's where we spent billions. Year on year, those budgets would increase. Promotions. Look at what MNANGAGWA has been doing ever since he got into power. How many people in the army have been promoted? And whenever you are promoted, your salary goes up. He has been recruiting even more soldiers as well. Why are we increasing the size of the army and the police and the CIO? We are not at war. And yet those have been increasing purely to buy their loyalty. That's all. Education was sacrificed, health was sacrificed, but the police, the army, the CIO, that's another matter. Their salaries have been going up and up and up, whereas the salaries of the teachers and nurses has been going down. What has served hyperinflation for this regime is that the regime has sacrificed the civil service and the nurses and the teachers in particular. Yes, the army, I think we can honestly say that some of the police, I don't know whether you saw some social media comment just a few days before independence saying the police were going to demonstrate because they've not been issued uniforms for the last 3 years. And we have seen on social media some of them wearing shoes that are completely worn out. Yes, the police are not really living in luxury except the top brass. Yes, the army rank and file, they are not living in luxury, but it's much better compared to the nurses and the teachers. And that is the truth. The top brass in those services, that's why you end up with people like our ex-police commissioner, Augustine Chiwuri, hearing that he has got assets worth $32 million US. You seriously think that he was getting it from his salary as police commissioner? Of course not. Top brass are doing well. But like it or not, the country is not doing well at all. And Zimbabwe, you can never have islands. You can never have a little oasis of Vice President Chiwenga and his White House somehow living in total luxury, while the rest of Harare is wallowing in poverty. You can't. He still has got to use the same roads that the members of the public use, and there are potholes there. He may have dug a borehole for his house, and he may have solar panels to supply him electricity, but the minute you walk out of the gate, he's greeted with a new reality. That is the reality, Zimbabwe. I think many people are hoping that it's not a question of hoping, it's a reality. I think the ZiG is doomed. It has already lost on the black market at least 40 to 70% of its value in 2 weeks. And we haven't even got to the point where we have got the paper ZiG in circulation yet. The ZiG that is in circulation at the moment is the token, the gold token. And yet that is losing its value so quickly, it's unreal. But once the paper money hits the market, I think the ZiG will fall even further. It may not fall to the same level as we saw the Zimbabwe dollar fall in 2008. And therefore, then the economy will not completely collapse. But that's one of the problems that we have. We have somehow got into this mentality that the only way we can start rebuilding Zimbabwe is if it's totally completely destroyed. Well, nations are never declared bankrupt. And so this drip will continue. And meanwhile, the country will sink deeper and deeper, and more people will be forced to live into abject poverty. And even if ZANU-PF finally relinquishes power, to rebuild Zimbabwe after 44 years of this corrupt, incompetent, and tyrannical ZANU-PF rule, to get it back to what we were in 1980 will take decades at best. Take up even more. 20 years, 30 years, to just get back to where we were in 1980. And the chances are most of those people who get into power will be looking at, this is my opportunity to feather my own nest. And so instead of focusing on rebuilding the country, they will be focusing on how much can I loot for myself while I'm still in power. Because who knows, I may only be in power for 5 years. And therefore then the rebuilding, instead of taking 20 years, will take twice, if not 3 times that amount, if at all we are going to have any meaningful recovery. I think people are making the mistake of thinking that if ZANU-PF goes, economic recovery is a given. It's not. ZANU-PF had the fortune of inheriting a robust economy. And we had many well-trained, well-educated Zimbabweans compared to what we have now. Whether we like it or not, the quality of education that we have in Zimbabwe today leaves a lot to be desired. I have interviewed individuals who have said that they've done A levels, and some of them have been to university. But you ask them some of the simple things like in mathematics, Pythagoras theorem, and they don't know. How can somebody who has done A-level mathematics not know about Pythagoras theorem? It beggars belief. Oh, we did sim science. So what is it exactly that we were being taught in sim science? And you seriously believe those are the people with whom you can rebuild a prosperous Zimbabwe? No. I think the people of Zimbabwe are making a big mistake. At the present moment, some of them are thinking, well, let's wait for ZANU-PF to burn itself out. Well, there's no guarantee that it's going to happen in the next 5 years, 10 years, or even 20 years. Because as the present leaders get old, there are a lot of hungry techs who are waiting in the wings, ready to take over, as we saw with G40. Yes, in the end, they were outmaneuvered by MNANGAGWA and his colleagues. But they could have outmaneuvered MNANGAGWA and his colleagues. And we would have G40 right now. And trust me, some of those people, although they'd been in power already for a decade or more, they were still so hungry that they would have happily wanted to stay in power for the next 3-4 decades. I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, you go ahead.
You know, someone, Wilbert, while you're on it, someone is saying, I'm of the opinion that we need some sort of Marshall Plan equivalent arrangement to have a. What's Marshall Plan? Are you talking about militarism or what? I'm struggling there.
Well, I think talking of the Marshall Plan as what happened to Germany and Europe in general after the Second World War. You know, the IMF, World Bank, and the Americans in particular came up with that Marshall Plan, which was how to rebuild Europe. And so many nations like Germany, you know, in fact, most European countries that had been destroyed during the Second World War benefited from that Marshall Plan. And I think, to be quite honest, we can do with that, but the only problem we have is, do we have the competent individuals who will not loot that money from the Marshall Plan? And at the present moment, to be quite honest, I don't think we have such leaders. So it could end up with a situation where the money, if it's advanced through the World Bank, even at token interest rate, we may find ourselves just ballooning our national debt for no gain at all, because the money is siphoned for other personal use and wasted away. I think we are not ready for competent government. I'll be honest with you. I think that is at the heart of why we are in this mess. We are not ready. Are you still there? Yeah, I can see Ignatius Dube there saying, I think Tendai Beti needs to come back as Minister of Finance. Mutuli Ngwe has failed. I think I've addressed that point. Yes, coming back in the present economic situation where ZANU-PF is in power, you'll do no better. As much as he improved the economy during the GNU, we must remember that the real economic recovery during the GNU was a result of scrapping the valueless Zimbabwe dollar and the scrapping of the price controls. Those two policies alone gave confidence to the people to start trading again. And therefore, yes, he is given credit for it as Minister of Finance, but to be quite honest, that was the reality. The country was in such a mess that two simple economic policies did contribute to a significant economic recovery. The biggest problem we had with people like Tendai Biti is that they sold out on the number one task they were supposed to perform during the GNU, which was to implement the democratic reforms and stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections.
Apologies, Wilbert. I think my network has just been cutting here and there. I just have a bit of a faulty device. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, no, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So I was in and out because of that. and I'm hoping that everything will come to normal. Yeah. Someone asked me that, Simba, where have you been? Well, I've been around. I've been around. Just had a few here and there that challenges. You know what happens in my kind of work. I'm not just a presenter. I'm an investigator. So from time to time, there are times when I sort of switch off so that I can do certain things. And yeah, it's not been easy over the last few weeks and months actually. Ever since last year in August, there's been a lot, but I'm sure people have been seeing me from time to time. I then pop in and out, and I think people remember last year in August, Wilbert, when I suddenly just shot a live video from nowhere, and I was now down Kumusha, right in the middle of elections, and this time I was in Lusaka. And so that is how I work. You know, that whole journey took me quite a while, several weeks to plan and work on, as I was doing investigations. But I also had a bit of drama because on the 9th of August, I was nearly, I believe they actually wanted to kill me. In the UK, by the way, before I flew to Lusaka. So 2 or 3 days before I flew to Lusaka, there were some assailants who tried to take my life. But it was a very, very, very fast operation that they attempted. But it turned out that I was faster. I never published about it back then, but Wilbert, those are some of the adventures that happen in my world.
Well, I'm glad that you managed to evade that one. But I agree that we do have some people who think that when they are losing the argument, the best solution is to use force, and it is a pity that people have got to live in fear of such thugs, and particularly if you are in Zimbabwe or Africa in general. You know, it is a pity. I think it has stifled meaningful debate and political discourse, and that has contributed also to stopping countries like Zimbabwe really opening up in a democratic way.
Yeah. You know, so Wilbert, we might need to round up here.
I agree.
How many months or how many weeks, how many days do you give ZiG to survive? ZiG and it's Mr. ZiG.
How long is a piece of string, Simba? I think if you want to be honest, um, change, you can only predict change if it's orderly. If we had, for instance, free, fair, and credible elections, I could, in all honesty, say MNANGAGWA will lose. But we are not talking of free, fair, credible elections here. The guy is not democratically accountable to the people. So the only way change in Zimbabwe can happen, the way I see it, is either another military coup or violent street protests or a combination of both. When will those happen? They could happen any day. But on the other hand, we could be waiting for those things to happen for the next 10 years plus. That is the tragedy of a dictatorship. Nothing is predictable, particularly when you've got a powerful dictatorship like we have in Zimbabwe that has cornered all the country's main resources and is using the wealth to buy off key players in the country, you know, from media chiefs, local traditional leaders, opposition parties, and so forth. So it becomes very difficult to see how change can come about under those conditions. And like I said before, also it has got an incredibly well-funded securocrat services, who the top brass of which at least have invested interest in keeping the status quo. So on that score, Simba, I can honestly tell you that I personally, I cannot tell how long this is going to last. But it could happen tomorrow. On the other hand, it could be another 20 years before it happens. So I don't know.
Wow. There's Kampala there. Have you seen the comment?
Yes, I've just seen it now. Let me just because it's quite small for me to read. Whilst Mr. Mkori has valid points, he is too negative about the future of Zimbabwe. I believe once ZANU-PF is out of the way, a lot of recovery can be made in a short space of time. Well, I think it's a matter of opinion. Number one is we've got to get them out of the way. How are we going to do it? And I've just said to you that ZANU-PF does have captured and corrupted most of our state institutions, public institutions, and even private institutions. You cannot do business in Zimbabwe like MNANGAGWA once boasted about. If you want to build a road, if you want to do anything, you've got to do it through ZANU-PF. And ZANU-PF will shut you down the minute they realize that you in any way undermining the regime's hold on power. That is their number one priority. On that, they will not compromise. So how are you going to bring change when you've got a regime that controls literally everything? So let's discuss that point. And then even if there is change, you have got to make sure that it is quality leaders that come in. You know, this idea that the minute we have got this regime out of the way, things will be rosy is naive, to say the least. Because in the past, we have seen it happen. Many people in 2017 were convinced that with Mugabe out of the way, Zimbabwe was going to start picking up. That has not happened. And many people will now honestly admit that things are worse than they were during Mugabe's time. The looting has gone into overdrive. MNANGAGWA inherited nothing from Mugabe. And so he had no choice but to increase looting. And that is the reality. Right now, we have got looting that is out of the scale. If you're talking of looting gold, this is what Simba was talking about earlier on. This is what the program was all about. 80% of Zimbabwe's gold is being looted. 80% of that resource is going to the pockets of just a few. That is what we are talking about. So change is going to be difficult. Number two, how are you going to make sure that you've got quality leaders? That is another problem. Everything is possible. We can have change and have prosperity in a short time.
Wow. Landslide Dube says elections monitored, free and fair, will end all this nonsense. Well, Hubert, we can talk the whole night. I'm noticing right now as we're speaking, Wilbert. I mean, it's literally it's almost midnight, and there are over 600 people listening to this stream. So that's how much people are attentive. And I would have wished we had more speakers tonight so that the quality of our engagement, is broad, especially those who are from ZANU PF. That would have been massive. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, when you have got a democracy can only thrive when you welcome ideas from other people, but in a constructive way. And in this particular case, the problem we tend to have with ZANU-PF is that if they join a platform like this, their mentality is to stifle debate, threaten everybody, monopolize it, somehow continue to disrupt it. And that has been my problem with some of our friends in ZANU-PF. And I must admit, some of our friends in the opposition too, because they seem to have copied that mentality. Whereas what we need is an open and honest debate where we accept the facts on the ground. Our debate should be founded on facts, not denying them. I find it absolutely infuriating, if I must be honest with you, Simba, that we have got some people, even after SADC, the AU, and even our own Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission condemned the 2023 elections as being flawed and illegitimate. They still maintain that they are free, fair, and credible. That is no basis for having any meaningful engagement then.
Folks, here we go. Let's end now. Ronald Munaki says ZANU-PF people are deaf and dumb, according to Professor Mtambara. Koyowa Mtambara vari chii then. Ndobvunza ini. Kana ZANU-PF iri deaf and dumb. Anyway, kungovhunzawo zvako. Semutori wenhau, mutori wenhau anorova kweseka, anenge achiita kuitira kuti nyaya ifambe. Right. But here we go, folks. You'll be able to rewind and follow this session. Do jump on Zimai for the full text of this and more. By the way, we're going to put the link here to one article that I think people should read. Will bet. Mm-hmm. I'm going to put it up here. I'm saying we're going to put.
I don't know whether you can hear me, Simba.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now, yeah.
Okay, sorry. I was saying, did you hear what was said? That there is no other opposition who is vibrant. The only person who is left is Fadzai Mahed.
Well, let's face it, in Zimbabwe at the present moment, the political system does not test any leader. And to say Fadzai Mahere is vibrant, on what basis? What has she done to show that she is vibrant? The political system is so, I don't know, corrupted, and you need to be a thug to survive that system. So yes, she has been on the political stage, but to say she is vibrant, I don't know. What has she done? And as far as I'm concerned, all the political opposition leaders who have been participating in these flawed elections, knowing fully well that they are flawed, knowing fully well that by participating you are giving ZANU-PF legitimacy, I think they sold out. And I find it very difficult to say somebody who has sold out is vibrant or is a potential leader. It's also that
because they're saying because she's exposing ZiG. They're saying she's exposing ZiG. How is she exposing ZiG? Posting on Twitter.
Well, I think as for ZiG is doomed. Anyone at all was following the Zimbabwe political system would have told you that ZiG was doomed. You don't have to be an economist, you don't have to be a politician to realize that ZiG was doomed.
Or a Twitter region, or a Twitter region.
Exactly. In this particular case, the political, economic conditions that led to the collapse of all the other currents that we have had are still there. To just change the current's name and give it a fancy name called ZiG and say, oh, it's going to be based on gold. Where is the gold? You and me saw on social media.
They're inside the RBZ Wubet.
Exactly. You saw 1.5 tons of gold. And that was worth what, about 200 million US dollars? And we know
is that small, man?
When the paper ZiG comes out, it will be more than 200 million. Much more than that. So when you say it's tied,
you are just unpatriotic. That is the problem. That is the problem with you people. You don't know how to be patriotic and to love your country.
Well, being patriotic should not mean that you should falsify the reality. That is, to me, in fact, if you're going to tell a lie just to be patriotic, you're actually undermining the country because you're misleading the people.
Wubet, we're going to need to shut, I'm noticing here the number is actually rising, but unfortunately, it's now almost midnight. We'll come back tonight, Zimbabweans Nation around the world. Do subscribe and jump onto the news network and give us your feedback as well on what you're seeing, what's happening here. We've just dropped a link here to one of the articles that have been published. Right, Wubet, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Simba, and good night to everybody. And thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Wubet.